I used to believe that love made people brave. I was wrong. Sometimes, love makes people careless. The night I realized my husband wasn't afraid of losing me, the world didn't shatter all at once. It cracked quietly, like a glass hairline fracture that spreads when you least expect it. I remember standing in our kitchen, barefoot on the cold tiles, holding my phone with trembling fingers, staring at a message that wasn't meant for my eyes. Same hotel as last time? I miss you already. The sender's name wasn't saved. Just a heart emoji next to a number I didn't recognize. For a few seconds, I convinced myself there was an explanation. There always is, right? A work colleague, a client, a wrong number. Anything but the truth. But deep inside, my heart already knew. My name is Emily, and I had been married to Daniel for 11 years. 11 long years of shared routines, shared dreams, and shared sacrifices. We weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid. The kind of couple people pointed at and said, they'll last. We met when we had nothing. I supported him through late nights, career failures, and endless self-doubt. I believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. When he finally became successful, I was proud. Proud like a wife should be. What I didn't realize was that success changed him and erased his fear. That night, Daniel was in the shower, humming softly like he always did after coming home late from work dinners. The sound of running water filled the apartment, but my mind was louder, screaming questions I wasn't ready to ask. I scrolled. One message became 10. 10 became 100. Hotel reservations, private jokes, pictures that made my stomach turn. And the worst part? There was no guilt in his words, no fear, no hesitation. He talked to her like I didn't exist. My hands felt numb, but my mind was strangely calm. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. Instead, I locked the phone and placed it exactly where I found it, on the bedside table face down. When Daniel came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around his waist, he smiled at me like nothing had happened. Hey, he said casually, you're still awake? Yes, I replied. My voice sounded normal. Too normal. He leaned down and kissed my forehead. The same lips that whispered lies into another woman's ear now touched my skin. I felt nothing, not even disgust, just emptiness. Long day? I asked. You have no idea, he laughed, grabbing a clean shirt. Meetings ran late. Clients are exhausting. I nodded. So was pretending. That night, I lay beside him, staring at the ceiling while he slept peacefully. I listened to his breathing, steady and relaxed, like a man with nothing to lose. That's when it hit me hardest. He wasn't cheating in fear. He was cheating with confidence. The next morning, I made him breakfast like always. Eggs, toast, coffee, 2 sugars, just the way he liked it. I kissed him goodbye, wished him luck, and watched him leave. From the outside, I was the perfect wife. From the inside, something had changed. I didn't confront him because I wanted answers. I didn't confront him because I wanted truth. I stayed silent because I wanted control. Over the next few days, I became an observer in my own marriage. I noticed things I had ignored for months. His sudden gym routine, the new cologne, the way he protected his phone like it was a second heart, and the lies, so smooth, so effortless. Business trip this weekend, he said one evening while loosening his tie. Just 2 nights. Where? I asked casually. Chicago. I smiled. I already knew the hotel. I already knew the room. While Daniel packed his bag, I sat on the couch and opened my laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't hesitate. I started doing something he never expected from me. I started preparing. People think revenge is loud, screaming, public exposure, slamming doors. But real revenge, the kind that changes a person's entire life, it's quiet, calculated, patient. I began documenting everything: dates, messages, expenses. I learned how deeply betrayal can hide behind normal smiles and shared dinners. I discovered how little fear a man has when he thinks his wife will never leave. Daniel still played the loving husband. He held my hand in public. He posted pictures of us online. He told people how lucky he was to have me. And I played my role perfectly. Because while he believed I was blind, I was actually watching every step he took. The woman he was cheating with wasn't just a stranger. She was younger, ambitious, and dangerously confident. She believed Daniel would choose her someday. What she didn't know was that I had already made a decision, a quiet one. The night before his Chicago trip, Daniel hugged me tightly. I'll miss you, he said. I know, I replied softly, looking into his eyes. I'll miss you too. As he walked out the door with his suitcase, I whispered something he didn't hear. Enjoy it while it lasts. Because by the time Daniel realized I knew everything, it would already be too late, and the first move of my plan was already in motion. What Daniel did on that trip would give me the final proof I needed, and once I had it, there would be no turning back. The conflict begins. The moment Daniel's car disappeared down the street, the silence in our house felt heavier than ever. It wasn't the peaceful kind of silence. It was the kind that presses against your chest, reminding you that something is terribly wrong. I locked the door, leaned against it, and closed my eyes. For the first time since discovering the truth, my hands started shaking. Not because I missed him, not because I was afraid, but because I finally allowed myself to feel angry. 11 years. That's how long I had given him my loyalty, my trust, my youth. And now he was spending a weekend in a hotel room with another woman, without even the fear of being caught. The audacity of it burned inside me. I didn't cry. Instead, I walked into our bedroom and sat on the bed we once shared dreams on. His pillow still smelled like his cologne. For a brief second, my heart betrayed me, whispering memories of who he used to be. I crushed that thought immediately. That man no longer existed. I opened my laptop and logged into our shared financial account. Daniel never thought to change the passwords. Why would he? He trusted me completely. He believed I was too busy being a good wife to ever question him. The first thing I noticed was the money. Large withdrawals. Expensive dinners. Hotel charges disguised as conference expenses. Jewelry purchases I had never received. My stomach tightened as I scrolled further back. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a lifestyle. I exported everything into a private folder and labeled it calmly, evidence. The next step was harder. I opened his email, another account he forgot I knew about. Dozens of unread messages sat there, like secrets begging to be uncovered. And then I saw her name, Sophie. It was strange how seeing her name didn't make me jealous. It made me curious. Who was she? What kind of woman looks at a married man and feels no shame? Her emails were worse than the texts. Promises. Future plans. Complaints about me. She doesn't understand me like you do. I feel alive when I'm with you. I'm only staying for convenience. Convenience. That's what I was to him. I closed the laptop slowly and took a deep breath. I realized something important then. If I confronted him now, he would lie. He would cry. He would apologize. And nothing would truly change. I didn't want apologies. I wanted consequences. That evening, I received a message from Daniel. Made it safely. Miss you already. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. Miss you too. Hope work isn't too stressful. A lie, sent with a smiley face. While Daniel enjoyed his weekend fantasy, I made my first move. I scheduled a meeting with a lawyer, quietly, professionally, and without drama. Sitting across from a stranger and explaining my marriage felt surreal, like I was talking about someone else's life. Do you want a divorce? The lawyer asked gently. I paused. I want to understand my options, I said. Before he understands anything at all. The lawyer nodded, and for the first time, I felt powerful. Over the next 2 days, I lived in two realities. In one, I was the loving wife sending sweet messages and heart emojis. In the other, I was a woman learning how to protect herself, her assets, and her dignity. When Daniel returned, he brought me a gift, a cheap souvenir pretending to carry meaning. I smiled, thanked him, and placed it on the shelf without a second glance. You okay? He asked, studying my face. You seem different. Just tired, I replied. Life stuff. He kissed my cheek and moved on. He didn't press further. He never did. That was his biggest mistake. A few days later, something unexpected happened. Daniel forgot his phone at home. It buzzed on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower, and I knew. This was the moment I'd been preparing for. I picked it up slowly, my heart steady. Sophie's name lit up the screen. I can't stop thinking about last night. I didn't answer. Instead, I did something far more dangerous. I unlocked his phone. I read everything. And then I saw it. A message that changed everything. Once I get things sorted, I'll finally be free. Free. That word echoed in my head like a warning bell. He wasn't just cheating. He was planning an exit, one where I would be left confused, heartbroken, and blindsided. I took screenshots of everything. Then I did something that still makes my hands sweat when I think about it. I replied to Sophie from Daniel's phone. Soon. Just be patient. When I placed the phone back on the counter, I felt a strange calm wash over me. The conflict had officially begun. Lines had been crossed, and there was no turning back now. That night, Daniel held me close, unaware that I was already 3 steps ahead of him. As he slept, I stared at his face, memorizing it, not out of love, but out of closure. Because soon, this man would wake up in a life he no longer recognized. And Sophie? She had no idea she was already part of my plan. The next message I received wasn't meant for me, but once I read it, I knew the betrayal was far deeper than I ever imagined. The betrayal revealed. I used to think betrayal was something you could see coming. Raised voices, cold distance, fights that never end. But the truth, betrayal hides in warm smiles and familiar routines. It pours your coffee in the morning and asks about your day. The message arrived on a Tuesday afternoon while I was folding laundry. Daniel had stepped out to grab coffee, leaving his laptop open on the dining table. I wasn't snooping anymore. I had crossed that line days ago. Now, I was investigating my own marriage. A new email notification popped up from HR department. My heart skipped. Daniel worked for a mid-sized consulting firm. He always bragged about his reputation, his professionalism, how much his company valued him. Seeing an email from HR felt wrong. I clicked it. We have received a formal complaint regarding a violation of company ethics policy. Please report to the office at 9 a.m. tomorrow. I reread it 3 times. Complaint? Ethics violation? My hands went cold. I scrolled further down, hoping for context, clarification, something that would tell me I was misunderstanding. But there was nothing else. Just a calendar invite attached. That's when I noticed another email beneath it. Older. Unread. From Sophie. I did what you asked. I told them everything. You promised me you'd leave her. The room started spinning. I sank into the chair, my breath shallow. Told them everything? Leave her? My mind connected dots I hadn't even known existed. Daniel wasn't just cheating. He was having an affair with someone connected to his workplace. And now, she had reported him. Suddenly, everything made sense. The secretive meetings, the business trips, the confidence. He thought he was untouchable. I closed the laptop just as Daniel walked in, coffee cup in hand, smiling like nothing in the world was wrong. Smells good in here, he said. What are you making for dinner? I looked at him, the man who had shared my bed the night before, who had planned my replacement behind my back. And something inside me snapped, but I didn't explode. I smiled. Thinking of pasta. I replied calmly. You okay? You look stressed. For a split second, his eyes flickered. Just work stuff, he said quickly. Nothing to worry about. Lie. That evening, he barely touched his food. He checked his phone constantly. His leg bounced under the table. The confident man I once admired was slowly unraveling, and he didn't even know I was watching. After dinner, he took a call on the balcony. I didn't follow him. I didn't need to. I already knew. That night, I lay awake replaying Sophie's email in my head. She had filed a complaint. She thought it would push him to leave me. Instead, she had triggered something much bigger, and Daniel hadn't told me a word. The next morning, he dressed more carefully than usual. A crisp shirt, perfect tie. He kissed my cheek and said, "Wish me luck." For what? I asked, pretending ignorance. Big meeting, he said. Could change a lot of things. He had no idea how right he was. The moment he left, I reopened his laptop. I forwarded every incriminating email, every message, every hotel receipt to my personal email. Then I did something bold. I replied to Sophie again. Things are complicated. Don't contact me for a while. Her response came instantly. You're scared, aren't you? She knows something, doesn't she? I stared at the screen. She was smarter than I gave her credit for. Just trust me. I typed back. I'm handling it. Handling it. That phrase tasted bitter in my mouth. By noon, my phone rang. Daniel's name flashed on the screen. I answered cheerfully. Hey, Emily, he said, his voice tight. Are you busy? No, I replied. What's wrong? There was a pause. A long one. I might be late tonight, he said. Something came up. Of course it did. When he came home that night, he wasn't the same man who had left that morning. His shoulders were slumped. His confidence shattered. He looked afraid. They're investigating me, he blurted out, barely inside the door. Someone filed a complaint. It's all lies. I watched him carefully. About what? I asked. He hesitated. Too long. Misconduct, he said finally. Office politics. You know how it is. I stepped closer. Is there something you want to tell me? No, he said too quickly. Of course not. That was the moment I realized something devastating. Even when his world was collapsing, he still chose to lie to me. That night, as he slept restlessly beside me, I checked my phone one last time. A new message waited for me from Sophie. If he doesn't choose me now, I'll make sure he loses everything. I smiled for the first time in weeks, because she didn't know the truth. Daniel wasn't choosing anyone anymore. The choice had already been taken away from both of them. The next morning, a single phone call would push Daniel into panic and force me to reveal just how much I really knew. The turning point. The phone call came at 7:12 a.m. I remember the exact time because I was already awake, sitting at the edge of the bed, watching Daniel sleep like a man running from his own shadow. His phone rang first. He jolted awake, eyes wide, and grabbed it with shaking hands. I didn't need to hear the voice on the other end to know who it was. HR. Daniel stepped into the bathroom and shut the door. Not gently, not quietly. He shut it like a man slamming the last door he thought he had. I stayed where I was, my heart steady, my mind sharp. This was it, the moment where lies begin to collapse under their own weight. Through the door, I could hear fragments of the conversation. Yes, I understand. No, that's not what happened. She's lying. Lying. The word stung, even though it wasn't aimed at me. When he finally came out, his face was pale. The confident man who once ruled boardrooms now looked like a frightened child. They've put me on temporary leave, he said quietly. With pay, until the investigation is complete. I tilted my head. That sounds serious. It's nothing, he snapped, then immediately softened his tone. I mean, it's being handled. Daniel, I said gently, is there another woman? The question hung in the air like a loaded weapon. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No, he said. I nodded slowly. Okay. He looked relieved, too relieved, and that told me everything. For the rest of the day, he paced the house, making calls, whispering, lying again and again. Every ring of his phone made him flinch. Every email notification sent him spiraling. And through it all, I remained calm. That evening, I made his favorite dinner. I poured him a glass of wine. I sat across from him and watched the guilt rot him from the inside. Emily, he said suddenly, gripping his glass. Have you ever thought about change? It raised an eyebrow. Change how? Like starting over. Somewhere else. Just us. There it was. The escape plan. I smiled softly. Why would we need to start over? He swallowed hard. I just feel like things have been off. They've been off because you're lying, I said quietly. His face froze. I know about Sophie. Silence. The color drained from his skin as if I had pulled the life right out of him. His glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. He didn't even notice. How long? He whispered. Long enough, I replied. He dropped into the chair, head in his hands. It's not what you think. I laughed then. A short, sharp laugh that surprised even me. You cheated without fear, I said. That's what hurts the most. Not the sex, not the lies, the confidence, the certainty that I would never leave. He reached for my hand. I pulled it back. I was going to end it, he said desperately. I swear. Sophie meant nothing. She meant enough for you to risk everything, I replied. Your job, your marriage, your integrity. Tears filled his eyes. Please, don't tell anyone. We can fix this. Fix. Another word that tasted bitter. I already talked to a lawyer, I said calmly. His head snapped up. You what? I know exactly where we stand, I continued. Financially, legally, emotionally. Panic set in. Real panic. You planned this, he said, voice shaking. Yes, I replied, quietly. That night, Daniel slept on the couch. I lay alone in our bed, not feeling lonely for the first time in years. I had crossed the point of no return, and strangely, I felt free. The next day, Sophie called me. I let it ring. Then she texted. I know you're reading this. We need to talk. I replied with a single message. He's not leaving me. He's losing everything. Her response came seconds later. You think you won? I stared at the screen and smiled. The truth was, I hadn't even made my biggest move yet. Daniel's investigation was moving faster than he expected. His company took ethics seriously, very seriously. And Sophie wasn't the only complaint, because I had submitted one too, anonymously, with evidence. Hotel receipts, messages, dates, lies, everything. That evening, Daniel received an email that broke him completely. Your employment has been terminated effective immediately. He sank to the floor, staring at the screen in disbelief. I stood in the doorway, watching silently. This was the turning point. And it wasn't over, because the next step of my plan wasn't about punishment. It was about truth. What I revealed to Daniel the following morning didn't just end our marriage. It destroyed the future he thought he still had. Climax plus resolution. The morning after Daniel lost his job, the house felt like a stranger's home. No alarms, no rushed coffee, no business calls, just silence, and the sound of a man realizing his entire identity had collapsed overnight. Daniel sat at the dining table, staring at his laptop like it might suddenly apologize and take everything back. His hair was messy. His eyes were red. This was the same man who once looked down on people who failed. Now he was one of them. I poured myself coffee and sat across from him, calm, centered, ready. There's something else you should know, I said. He didn't look up. I don't think I can handle anything else. I'm sure you can, I replied. You handled lying to me for months. That got his attention. He looked at me then, really looked at me, for the first time in a long while. There was fear in his eyes, and not anger, not arrogance. Fear. I didn't just talk to a lawyer, I continued. I finalized everything. What does that mean? He asked hoarsely. It means the house is no longer yours. His face went blank. The accounts you used for hotels and gifts? I added. Those were joint funds. I documented everything. The law doesn't favor cheating spouses who misuse marital assets. You can't do this, he whispered. I already did. His hands started shaking. Emily, please. I have nothing now. I leaned forward slightly. You still have Sophie. That name shattered him. She won't answer my calls, he said. She blocked me. Of course she did, I replied. She wanted a future, not a fallen manual. Tears rolled down his cheeks. Real ones this time. The kind he never shed for me. I loved you, he said weakly. No, I corrected him gently. You loved what I provided. Stability, loyalty, silence. I stood up and placed an envelope on the table. What's this? He asked. Divorce papers, I said. Signed. He stared at the envelope like it was a death sentence. There's one more thing, I added. He looked up, confused. I didn't just submit evidence to your company, I said calmly. I submitted it to Sophie too. His mouth fell open. She deserved to know the truth, I continued. That you promised her freedom while planning to use her as long as possible. That you lied to both of us. You destroyed me, he whispered. I shook my head. No, Daniel. You destroyed yourself. I just stopped protecting you. I walked away from the table, grabbed my bag, and headed for the door. Where are you going? He asked desperately. To my new life, I replied. One where I don't shrink myself to make someone else feel powerful. He didn't follow me. Weeks later, I heard what happened. Daniel couldn't find a job in his industry. Word traveled fast. Ethics violations tend to do that. Sophie moved on quickly, engaged to someone else within months. And Daniel? He tried to reach me again. Apologies. Regret. Promises. I never responded, because the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's indifference. Today, I wake up without fear, without suspicion, without waiting for lies to unravel. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't expose him publicly. I did something far more powerful. I walked away, prepared, protected, and whole. And the man who cheated without fear, he now lives with nothing but it. TG end.